Welcome to Live Unashamed, where we pause the show and invite members of our team to talk vulnerably about their own recovery, things they're learning, the resources that are actually working, and what it truly means to live unashamed.
What's up, gentlemen? See, I'm starting this one. Hi, Sam.
Chris, how are you?
I'm awesome. Hi, James.
Hi, Chris.
Oh, I love these episodes. They're so fun. We always have a riot.
I like living unashamed.
I also like living, well, most of the time I like living unashamed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's uncomfortable to live unashamed
In the short term.
because you have to, sometimes
Be
feel
honest.
Be honest and feel like,
Authentic.
and sometimes that feels a little vulnerable and my shame
Yeah.
comes up,
Right? It's a whole new world many times.
Chris, so
Yeah.
you're super excited about this episode of
Yes.
Live
I
Unashamed. Tell me
don't know
about
why I get so excited to talk about this, but when it was revealed to me, it just, a light bulb went off.
it. Yeah.
So this episode is about negotiating with your addiction.
What does that mean, Chris?
So many guys will, or gals, go to social media and they'll look up certain things, but it's not quite porn. But it's revealing, maybe hoping that you might come across accidentally, finding something to kind of get some lust hits. And that is 100% just negotiating with your addiction.
I used to call that the browsing game.
Right? And I had a buddy of mine that asked me, he's like, so you, Chris, you don't jump on Facebook and go check out chicks? And he's all, it's not porn. And I'm like, no, because I know where it's going to take me.
Mm.
And that's negotiating with my addiction. It's kind of like I have a hard and fast boundary for me is I will never ride in cars with women alone. I won't go to lunch with women alone. Even here with Accepted, if any of the women were like, hey, let's just all go down and everybody loads in one car and there's two of us left and it's me and another woman, and she'd be like, hey, let's just ride down together. I'd be like, nope, I'll meet you down there.
Mm.
Period. Whether I would act out with this woman or not, it's a boundary that I set because I'm like, I refuse to negotiate with my addiction, period.
The way I negotiate with my addiction is, this is, what I'm hearing from you is there's different ways, right? Like for you, that
Everybody's
boundary
gonna be
is
different,
super
yes.
important. The way I do it is, I know I'm headed down that path when I start scrolling. Some people can I've heard some people actually say this, I'll take 20 minutes and intentionally scroll at the end of the day. I know that's not what I'm doing. I know I'm not just having a little relaxation breather.
Right.
When I start to hop on YouTube and just scroll through the shorts or whatever, I know I'm within 20 minutes of relapsing. And so I have to stop it right there because that's my biggest negotiation. I'm like, well, I don't have to check out through porn. I don't have to use, but I kind of deserve a break. I'm just going to go mind numb for an hour on YouTube, right?
Right.
And I just realized that as you were talking, but I think that's the way that I do it.
Totally.
Well, so now you have a hard and fast boundary then of I don't scroll anymore.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
Right? That creates an environment in which you are not in a position to negotiate with your addiction.
I actually did set that boundary last week and I'm really proud of myself.
Good.
Because it's helped a ton.
Yeah.
I had probably 4 days in a row. I felt pretty overwhelmed or stressed, and I felt like I had the option I can choose to check out and go down that rabbit hole, or I can figure out what do I need to do to get myself back into a place where I'm present, I'm connected with God, or whatever the need is. But
That's a good example of negotiating with addiction.
Yep.
What are some examples you've done yourself or that you've seen others use to negotiate with their addiction, just so we can put those out there so people kind of get a sense of what else could that look like for me?
So I have a client that he's done this in the past where he's just like, you know what? I think I'm just going to stay home when my wife leaves because I have just a couple things that I've got to do, even though he knows that staying home isn't safe for him. And he knows that when he stays home and she's gone, that he's wanting to act out. So it's I'm just going to find a reason to stay home and just talk myself into it and be like, it's okay. I just need to finish this project, or I just need to hurry up and
Or
do
even
this.
I'll be strong enough this time.
Yeah, totally. And that's negotiating with the addiction. It's like, no, you got to have a hard, fast rule of this is what I do.
Yeah.
I'm not allowing myself to be put in those situations.
So here's a question, because I know I'm having this question right now, and I know other people who have talked to me about this concern. People will say, well, I don't want to have to go into this like crazily restricted form of living in order to stay sober. Is there a way to stay sober without setting those types of boundaries? And is it healthy? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because
I have an initial thought.
okay.
At first, no. You just do the strict boundaries in order to build a track record within yourself of like getting some sobriety behind you, so that you are learning that you still have to be boundaried with yourself. And creating enough self-discipline to have that I can hold myself or sacrifice for myself on my behalf and things like that, and experience, because we experience enough pull or lust or whatever to the addiction without putting ourselves in those situations where we know we're gonna more than likely fall.
Yeah.
And so once I have a little bit of a track record around that, might I be able to more clearly see whether or not I'm negotiating with my addiction about staying home, versus say a year from now and I've really been leaning into some recovery and I've been sober, and then when I'm like, I think I want to stay home, and I actually know now that this has been problematic for me, and this was a year ago, and I picked up these tools along the way, and I actually kind of have some emotional coping mechanisms, and it's like, oh, I've learned how to do a lot of this stuff now.
Right.
Because there is power in holding oneself accountable, and being rigid for a little window, even though that kind of sucks. I know that for me, like, that was one of the things I hated.
It's called lifestyle changes.
Yeah, that was one of the things I hated the most about recovery, was like, well, I just want to do whatever I want, but just not look at porn anymore.
Yeah. So it's but it's possible to do that. You just have to live a boundaried life. That's a principle of happiness, and
I still live
getting
a
what you
life.
want. Yeah.
Yeah, a
And that's why I
boundary
still have
life.
17 years of sobriety.
Yes. So, yes, and people that live recovered, healthy lifestyles, guess what? They live with boundaries. And boundaries aren't about changing other people. Boundaries are about what I do. So I have to have boundaries for me, that I keep for me, to keep me safe.
What's cool about it is, like, you can put these strict boundaries in place so that you can create the freedoms that you want. I've never felt more free in my life than I do right now. My wife can grab my phone anytime. I don't have to be freaking out and be like, oh my gosh, what is she going to see? What is she going to find in there? What am I going to get a text message or whatever? She can grab my laptop. Any one of my kids can use my laptops. I don't care, because I'm like, I have so much freedom. And I don't have blockers on anything, because I've lived a boundary life, and I'm like, nope, that's just the lifestyle changes that I put in place for me to create the freedoms that I want to live. I don't feel like my life is restricted. I have autonomy. I have a bazillion ways for me to meet my needs, and it's a fantastic lifestyle.
Yeah, for me, one thing like that I was strict or whatever was with, I got rid of like social media, so in particular like Instagram and Facebook, because at the time I was using that as a tool to ignite some lust or whatever. So I just like uninstalled them from my phone and quit using them. And here now I am, like, 12 years later into like this recovery process, and I'm like, I can now re-engage those mediums, and I'm like,
Without it consuming you.
yes, this is not a place where I'm feeling pulled now that's gonna pull me into that lust area, because I have some other tools now that I use where and I've developed some health around my sexuality, and I've developed some health around my recovery now, where it's like, oh, now I just need boundaries around those things, so I just don't sit and waste a bunch of time laughing, watching cat videos and cute babies doing stuff. Like, now I just need the boundaries so I don't waste a whole bunch of time and just get sucked into that. And because shoot, there's some funny stuff on there, man. I could just laugh and laugh away 5 hours of my time and like, oh crap, what happened? So now it's a different boundary around, because I want to honor my own time for me. So I'm still living a boundaried life. So I still restrict my use of it. But then again, any healthy lifestyle person is going to have boundaries around the things that they engage in their life and the way that they spend their time.
So,
keep going.
well, Chris, I want to get your perspective on this, because there are some boundaries, like you said, that you hold hard and fast to this day, 17 years after the last time that you acted out. And but what James is saying is that sometimes over time those change. So in your mind, what's the difference between those ones that you feel like are incredibly important that you keep long term, and some that, like, hey, maybe we relax on the rigidity of this because I'm not worried about negotiating with my addiction in that way. What are your thoughts on that?
For me, and I'm different with how I view social media. Social media, I could literally, like, especially when TikTok came out, I was spending hours on it. Like every day I was like getting on, and 2 hours go by, and I'm like, my head comes up and I'm like, wait, where am I? What's going on? I don't know. And then 2 hours goes by and I'm like, okay, I need to get this checked. I need to figure this out and be like, you know what? I'm just going to set limits and be like, you know what? I'm just going to put 30-minute limits on there.
So Chris, why have you still choosing to not even just run to lunch that's 2 minutes down the road with somebody here at work that's a female?
Because I don't want to put myself in that situation that allows me to be able to start thinking and being like, hey, this is just okay. Because if I do it with one, maybe it'll be okay the next time with someone that I wouldn't even have an affair, or and I honor my rules around that, and I honor Autumn in that too, and I just play those things all the way through. So that's been a huge thing for my recovery anyway, is just playing it through.
Yeah.
Because I could totally go to lunch with these women and not even say a word to Autumn, and she would never know.
And you would never have a lust to it. You would never even think about having an affair. Yeah.
But what happens when she finds out? Right? It's not if she finds out.
It's when.
But it's when. It's like, it's not worth it for me.
So this is what I would want to say before we wrap this up. Is one of the keys to not negotiating with your addiction, Chris, you brought it up, is having a great capacity to play it all the way through to the end.
Yeah.
So if you can live in a place where you're about to engage in an action, and you can play that through all the way through to the end, if you develop that skill alone, you'll develop a great capacity to stop negotiating with your addiction. If you
100%.
practice the skill of playing whatever you're doing right this moment, all the way through to the end, that's going to help you stop negotiating with your addiction. That's the gift. That's the key. There's the little secret to not negotiating.
You have that temptation to jump on social media, on YouTube, and be like, oh, but I know where this is going to take
20
me.
minutes from now, I know where
20
I'm
minutes
playing.
into
That was you playing it through.
Yeah.
So that's the secret to not negotiating, is practicing playing it through over and over and over again. That's as we're learning to overcome compulsive behavior, that's the best way in my, that's the secret to catching, oh, wait a minute. If I actually paused and played this through, where is this going to put me in? So that's, to me, that's the secret to not negotiating with your addiction, is pausing long enough to play it through and being realistic in that play it through scenario, rather than deceiving yourself that oh, I'm going to play this through and I'm going to do it all great this time. It's like,
where
do the one
lead?
that you actually would do if you were in your compulsive. You assume you're in your compulsivity, where Chris, 17 years later, could play the best case scenario. Of course I'm not going to do that. Of course I'm not going to do that. That's negotiating with the addiction, though, even that in that play it through scenario.
Wow. Guys, we want to hear from you. What are the crazy ways that you negotiate with your addiction? We've talked about ours.
And how are you not negotiating anymore?
Yeah. What have you done to overcome that? It's
And yeah, that'd be cool to share like some of the things that folks are doing to stop negotiating.
Yeah.
I would love to hear their tips and
So-
tricks, and we
so-
could read them on the show or whatever.
Email us, Sam, Chris, James, at Unashamed, Unafraid. Again, thanks for watching the podcast. Give us a 5-star review so we can spread this message to more people. Donate and become an outsider on unashamedunafraid.com, and follow us on social media at Unashamed Unafraid. And until next time, remember to live unashamed.